Welcome back to the 2022 Reimagining Public Safety Forum. I'm your moderator, Joy Elise Davis, and my pronouns are she, her. Just a reminder, this forum will unapologetically center Black issues. Let's welcome our candidates.
Hi, I'm Dale Hardt, and I'm running for Commissioner number 3, and my pronoun is me. Describe myself for the visually impaired. Okay, I am old, 62. I'm white and good looking. I have shoulder-length brown hair, bright hazel eyes, and a happy smile most of the time. Okay, I'm running for this office because the people need to have a clear voice this time to get things done. We need to have a uniformity, and I think the only way we're going to get that is if somebody goes in there with a good plan, and I got it. Why do I think I can win? Well, let me tell you a joke, and maybe you'll understand. How can you tell when Portland is in deep shit? The mayor comes out and extends a humanitarian crisis 3 more years, then goes back to business as usual. That's why I think I can win. I don't think people want to put up with this any longer. Thank you very much, and I'm here if you need me, Portland.
Hi, my name is Chad Leisey, and my pronouns are he, him, his. I am 6 foot tall, 205-pound, broad-chested white male. I'm wearing blue jeans, brown cowboy boots, blue button-up shirt with a gray pullover. I'm running for city commissioner because the city of Portland has a communication issue, and they're not willing to work. They don't appear to be willing to work together. I strongly believe we need somebody that will be willing to bring community members together, listen to their ideas, come up with an action plan, and achieve the goals. Why do I think I can win? I can tell you why I would like to win, because I'm great at bringing people together and organizing.
Good morning. I'm Jo Ann Hardesty. I use she, her pronouns. I'm wearing a lime green dress, multicolored jacket, and I am chocolate brown with dreads. I am pleased to be your Portland City Commissioner, position 3, and I ran because I thought we could do better. I thought we could create a community that was equitable and fair. In my 3 years in office, I've had the privilege of working with community to create the Portland Street Response, a non-emergency response to 911 calls, to create the first of its kind police accountability measure that 82% of Portlanders supported, that will create a new independent police oversight board. In addition to that, we've passed legislation like banning fireworks, because guess what? We're in a climate crisis, and I've been protecting the Portland Clean Energy Fund since my first day at City Hall. There's a lot more work to do, and with your vote on May 17th, I'll continue to serve as the working person's city commissioner. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Let's just do a quick reminder. This forum will unapologetically center Black issues. Let's get to know the candidates. Will you say your name and pronoun?
Hi, I'm Dale, and my pronoun is me.
Thank you.
Cheers, I'm Chad Leisey. My pronouns are he, him, his.
Thank you.
Hi, Jo Ann Hardesty, she, her, hers.
Thank you all so much. So before we dive into some questions, I'm gonna let you know the format. I am gonna ask the questions for 2 minutes. I'm gonna keep myself on time, it's gonna be great. You all will have 3 minutes each to respond. Afterwards, we'll have about 4 minutes for some open dialogue, so some closing thoughts. And don't worry about the time, I will keep you all going. And let's get into it. Okay, so question 1. In 2020, thousands of people marched in protest in the city of Portland demanding racial justice. Some protesters called for police reform. Some called for defunding to drastically shrink the size of the police budget, while others called for defunding to complete abolition. Nearly 2 years later, elected officials still think of police response when they hear the phrase public safety. But this definition is too narrow. We also know that policing isn't crime prevention, it's reactionary response to crime. My question to all of you, what is your definition of community safety? What are your plans to reimagine public safety and create a city that provides vital services such as housing, healthcare, parks, and equitable access to food to communities that need them in effective, equitable, and sustainable ways? I'm gonna pass it to you first, Dale.
Okay. Well, I think that with the police issue, we should never have taken away the money from the police. I think it's important that we realize that from the days of the Wild Wild West, there have been criminals, and there's going to continue to be criminals. And the criminals have guns, and the criminals are dangerous. And so we have to acknowledge that there is a place for the police. But it doesn't have to be as big as it is right now. It's gotten too big, and it's the primary resource that we always call upon. What they're doing now with the community policing, sending unarmed rangers and these other people, that's the direction we need to go for. But not by eliminating the police yet, because we need them right now, because as you can see, the crime has gone crazy. And this is all wonderful stuff that we're doing right now, but it should have been done after we reached a state of being crime at least controlled. But we're not even in the running to have crime controlled at this time. So it's not the time for community policing. This is a time for real police to be out there doing their job.
Thank you. I have a quick follow-up for you. What conditions do you think need to be in place to actively prevent crime that doesn't require police intervention?
I have always been a really big supporter of the neighborhood watch. I think we need to know our neighbors. I know most of mine. I've picked up on that program that the city started with the trash. And I go around and I pick it up, and I've met so many people just walking around our neighborhood picking up trash. And I think right now that we don't have a police force to call on for help. And right now, sitting in this room, it's real easy to just talk about it. But when that door gets kicked in the middle of the night in your house, and you're calling for somebody and they're busy, what are you going to do? Can you defend yourself? If everyone out there cannot personally defend their home and property and their children, then we need police. And we have to acknowledge that until crime is under control. Right now, the streets of Portland are not safe, and we need force to make it safe.
Thank you so much for your response. Same question to you, Chad. I'm going to read it again for you. What is your definition of community safety? What are your plans to reimagine public safety and create a city that provides vital services such as housing, healthcare, parks, and equitable access to food to communities that need them in effective, equitable, and sustainable ways?
My definition of community safety to me is everybody is entitled to and should be able to walk streets anywhere within Portland and feel safe and comfortable. Currently, I don't feel, even as a large male, I feel uncomfortable walking around downtown. Let alone I can't imagine a small single person wandering the streets. Portland's become a dangerous place, sadly. To solve it, we need a lot of community outreach within all of our departments, our police department, all of we have so many great groups throughout the city that are volunteers, and I feel like they're all scattered apart, so I feel as a commissioner, and as all the commissioners have a responsibility to the public to bring all these wonderful groups together, come up with plans, and let's work as a team. You're a lot more effective as a role as a team, versus 100 different people doing different things. So communication, whether it's relationships, business, communication is #1 key to success in anything. And I feel like that's a good start where we need to go.
I have a follow-up question for you. What conditions do you think need to be in place to actively prevent crime that doesn't require police intervention?
Going back to communication, I believe there's a lack of communication within the commission. We need to have a lot more active roles within the community and making people feel comfortable. I'm totally against taking away from the police departments. No defunding or anything like that. We need more trained officers out there on the streets, like taking psychiatrists, hiring them onto a different branch of the police department, and having the ongoing education and everything that's required to build relationships throughout the community. The best way to prevent crimes from happening is building relations, a trust. Yeah, I mean, communication is number one.
Thank you so much. I'm going to have you expand upon that in a little bit. For my second question, I'm going to go to my left, Commissioner. I'm going to repeat it one more time. What is your definition of community safety? And what are your plans to reimagine public safety that creates a city that provides vital services such as housing, healthcare, parks, and equitable access to food to communities that need them in effective, equitable, and sustainable ways?
Thank you so much for that question. And I think the pandemic has actually highlighted that we don't all experience the city in the same way. What the pandemic taught us is that Black, Indigenous, Latinx communities were hit hardest. They had a more severe impact. COVID, the economic collapse, et cetera, et cetera. And what we know is it's going to take them much longer to recover. They haven't even started the road to recovery. Community safety to me means that regardless of your socioeconomic status, your race, your immigration status, you can have your needs met in your community wherever you go. It means when you call for help, you don't have to wonder whether the help will kill you or whether the help will exacerbate the problem that you're confronted with. Community safety looks a lot different depending upon who you're talking to. Most people I know do not feel safer with armed people showing up. That's why I created a Portland Street Response, so that people could be confident when they called 911, they would get compassionate, empathetic care. And I will tell you, 50% of the calls to 911 are for unwanted people. What does unwanted people look like? Well, they look like you and I. They look like people sleeping on a bench or sleeping in a tent. And no one should be unwanted in the city of Portland. We should be trying to engage everyone so they have a quality of life. And your income should not determine your zip code. But today, with the cost of living at median family income for a family of four, $96,900. How many people are cleaning up hotel rooms? How many people working in music venues, sports venues, restaurants can afford to live in the city of Portland? The number one reason why we have so many people on our street is it costs too damn much to live in the city of Portland. And until we address that, until we use our power of eminent domain, maybe and start foreclosing on these overpriced apartment and commercial buildings, until we start actually doing an audit of the 14,000 vacant apartments that no one that lives here today can afford to live in, until we start land banking the land we already own, because the biggest cost is land, why are we selling it to private investors and then begging for a public benefit? I mean, I don't know what affordable looks like in the Ritz-Carlton, but they have just said, nope, sorry, we said we were going to do it, but we're not going to do it. So the issues are intertwined, but it's about equity, fairness, and making sure that all of us have an equal opportunity. That's what community safety looks like. You know your neighbor, right? You're not calling the police on your neighbor because you know him.
Thank you. We have a few seconds left. I want to just follow up. You expanded upon it a little bit, or mentioned a little bit earlier, but what are the conditions that you believe need to be in place to actively prevent crime that doesn't require police intervention?
Give you a great example of a project I did in Mountain Scott neighborhood, right? Got a lot of ridicule on social media about slowing down traffic, because what we heard was that cars that were involved in shootings were speeding through the neighborhood, and the neighbors were terrified, right? And it called everybody they could think of calling, and I finally called my office. Would you guys work with us? Well, sure, right? Now remember, I have 7 staff, including me, but we went and met with the neighbors, and they said, well, we think if we slow down traffic, if we could just do a temporary traffic slowdown, we think we could make a big difference in this. I said, okay, let's try it, right? I'm not stuck in a way the city has always done business, so I'm always up for, let's try something different, right? And see if it works. I didn't know if it would work or not, right? But promising practices says that 63% reduction in gun violence in that community as compared to the rest of the city of Portland. So I think we're on to something, and here's what I know. The community knows how to stop the violence in their community, right? And if we, government, work with community, we can solve this problem together. Right? Police won't solve it. The police have never solved these kind of problems, right? It takes community to solve these problems because we know where the violence is coming from. And let me just end by saying domestic violence was up over 400% during COVID. we don't hear people coming up with a response to how are we going to address domestic violence. Child care. We didn't have child abuse, but what we know is that children were still being abused, and that's actually showing up now as kids are back in school, right? So we'd love to have a one-size-fits-all solution to violence and what causes violence, right? But the reality is that anytime an economic downturn happens, violence is created all over communities. So we have to have different approaches to different types of violence and not assume that we have a one-size-fits-all solution.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do some follow-ups. We went a little bit over, so I'm going to have you do a quick. No, you're fine. We have to do a quick 30 seconds in, but you got some bars for us. I'm going to go to Dale. Just a quick 2 minutes. Do you want to tell us a little bit more and respond to anything that you've heard at the table?
Well, I think what Jo Ann is doing is correct. All the little things like the barrels is all a deterrent. And the more deterrence you have, the less crime you have. Right now, Portland has accidentally gone the opposite way. We're even announcing that certain crimes will not be pursued. Theft, property theft. So if I just walk in somebody's yard and take their lawnmower, they can call the police and then they're going to be told to go file a police report. So the criminals are not stupid. They take advantage of this. And that's why we have such a high crime right now, is that we've said we're not going to prosecute people. The crooks know that you can go ahead and break somebody's door, go to jail, and in 12 hours be back out to do it again. So where's the deterrent? There isn't one. And as long as there isn't one, people are going to take advantage of the city. And it's going to get worse because we're allowing too much. Right now, the Portland police can do one thing and one thing only, and that's gun violence. And it's a miracle that they can even keep up with that at the rate it's happening.
Do you think they're doing a good job on gun violence?
No. Good. But I don't know who can, and I don't think any of us can run in and apprehend an armed criminal. So I think we got a real problem here that needs, like Jo Ann said, we need to go in more than one direction. One direction alone is not going to get us where we're going.
Thank you. I feel the passion at this table. I just want to name, like, all, the vibes are great. I'm going to kick it to you for a quick 2 minutes, too, to give some follow-up thoughts to this question.
Yeah, there's like both of them have been going on. I think the issue stems just more beyond just the police department. I think that there's a lack in the city attorney's office and district attorney's office, for the county. And there's that lack of accountability. We need to start holding these people more responsible at a higher level as well, And if it takes us suing the county to force the county attorney to do his job, then it needs to be done. Things like this, this is exactly what I'm all about. Like right here, where the four of us are together discussing. That's what it's really going to take to make a difference in Portland, is bring everybody together and discussing, because nobody has the right answer or simple answer, It takes a whole team of everybody feeding off of each other and learning from each other, and then taking the best ideas from that as a group, as a agreed upon group, I know it's hard to get to a point where everybody can agree on something, but just first steps, taking them steps to do this. This is wonderful. So.
Thank you. I'm going to pass it to you for a quick minute back. Do you have some closing thoughts to this question?
I just wanted to defend the DA for just a moment. Not that Mike Smith needs defending, but I will say that the DA can only prosecute cases that have been thoroughly investigated and presented to them. And I also want to say, with 800 plus sworn officers, I expect them to do their job, which is to actually solve crime. And since 2010, it is really challenging to see what the 800 plus sworn officers do on a day-to-day basis. And that's what the DOJ is asking us to answer. With a staffing study, with a report on police activities in the summer of 2020, with the demand that we get an analysis of and hold supervisors accountable for the brutality, the 6,000 uses of force that Portland police officers have been found to be guilty of. So there's a lot of work that we have to do before we start pouring more money back into a broken institution. And ironically, there are 100 funded positions today for Portland Police Bureau that are already funded in their budget that they can't hire for. There's another 30 in the budget lockbox, and they just turned 30 positions back over to the city budget office that they weren't able to fill this past year, right? So I think the mayor is wrong when he wants us to keep pouring more money into a bureau that can't spend the money they already have.
Thank you for that.